Hey guys, so this is just going to be a super quick and super brief tutorial on adjusting the exposure of an image in Photoshop using the levels adjustment. So what you will do is you'll just open your Photoshop application on your device at home, and then you will open whatever image or file that you are wanting to work with by simply going to File, Open, and then locating your image. So I will go back here to my raw or original files. We are just going to work with this one for the day. So again, there is the image that I am going to demo for you. So probably the most important panel in the Photoshop application is this panel right here where my cursor is circling, which is referred to as the layers panel. So the first thing that you are always going to want to do every single time that you open an image or a file in Photoshop is duplicating this background layer. You do that as a means to work what we refer to as losslessly. That phrase, the word losslessly, means essentially to work in a way or a workflow that does not erase the original image, or essentially what you were aiming for essentially is to work in a way in which each step of your work can be returned to. So for the purposes of this demo, let's just go ahead and make this first background copy. I usually just allow it to be named as that background copy, so you'll just go ahead and click OK. And then what I recommend doing, just as a general again, workflow, is to make a new layer for every single adjustment that you make to the image. So like I said, each step or each adjustment can be undone if you want it to be. So let's go ahead and make another copy of this background copy by duplicating the layer again. So we'll click on duplicate layer, and for this layer, we will just go ahead and name it levels adjustment. Click OK. So here we have, again, the levels adjustment layer. So what you will do from here, again, I would just like to point out that these are our different layers in the layers panel, and you can activate different layers by clicking on them, and you can tell which layer is active by which one is highlighted in gray. So go ahead and select your levels adjustment layer, and we will go ahead and open the levels adjustment dialog box by going to Image, Adjustments, and then select Levels. This new dialog levels adjustment box will pop open, and you will be presented with this graph. You can leave the preset to default. Your channel should be on RGB. And I'm going to show for you today two different ways in which you can adjust your levels in an image, which again is just adjusting the overall exposure of the image. So probably the easiest way to do a levels adjustment is working with this graph right here. So you'll see three different little markers in the shape of these triangles. So you have this at the far left, which refers to your black point. You have this marker in the middle, which refers to your gray point or your midtones, and this, which refers to your white point. So to be clear, the black point adjusts your shadows, the gray point adjusts your midtones, and the white point adjusts your highlights. So you can see if I click on any of these markers and drag, it adjusts the image. But there is some rhyme and reason to how far you might want to drag the markers, what the graph means, and so forth. So that's what I'm going to briefly explain to you here. So essentially, you can really just kind of eye it as a means of pinpointing how far it should be dragged. So really, what we do not want are these sort of flat points at the end of our graphs. So see how here it starts to spike pretty early on. So we might just drag this white point just to about here, where we see a little bit of an increase in the line. And so this black point, though, our shadows do need to be dragged over a bit further. We might drag them, say, that's probably good if you wanted to go a little further. It also sometimes depends on aesthetically just how you like your images to read. If you prefer for them to be a little bit darker in the shadows, then you might want to drag this over a little bit. But for the intentions of trying to just correct exposure, you don't want to do anything too dramatic, right? Like that doesn't look very realistic. So again, just we're doing correction. We're not doing heavy manipulation or anything just yet. So then a way to preview our changes here within the levels dialog box still open. If you select and deselect this box just by clicking, we can see what that simple levels adjustment has done, but how significantly it has helped our image. So that is how you adjust levels, just working with the graph in the levels dialog box. So I'm going to cancel that just so I can show you the other way of doing a levels adjustment. So the other way is, again, going to, with your levels adjustment layer selected, going to Image, Adjustments, Levels. And instead of working directly with the graph, we are going to work with these eyedropper tools that are located. I am highlighting them with my cursor here, just under the Options button. So again, just as these markers indicated in the graph, the black eyedropper tool refers to the black point and adjusts the shadows in the image. The gray eyedropper tool refers to the gray point and adjusts the midtones, while the white eyedropper tool refers to the white point and adjusts the highlights in the image. So what we will do here is we will first select, let's go with the black eyedropper tool, and what you are looking for then is the darkest point in the image, what you find or believe to be the blackest point. So I'm going to say it's probably right in here, if not here. And so to make sure that I am getting as close to that point in the image as possible, I'm going to want to zoom in. And you can do that on your keyboard by clicking Command plus, and then to move through an image, the keyboard shortcut is holding down the space key. See, my cursor turns into the hand tool, and you can just drag your image from there. So now that I'm zoomed in a little bit, I think I'm going to say this is probably what I see right now to be the darkest point of the image. So I'm just going to click there and see how the image is adjusted. I'll just turn my preview off and on. But see what also happened now, this is kind of why I prefer to use the graph, but also sometimes, you know, you have your reasons for using one over the other. But if you'll notice from the original, which is what we're looking at right now, switching over to the levels adjustment, this has tinted the image to be a little bit more blue, which is not exactly true to the image, but what we can do just here in a minute, we can adjust our midtones to get that sort of greenish hue back. But I'm first going to adjust my highlights by clicking here. I clicked on the white eyedropper tool, and again, I'm going to zoom into the image just so I can make sure that I'm getting that accurate selection. So Command plus, zoom in one more time, and I'm going to hold my spacebar down to give me the hand tool. So I can come in here, I believe this right here to be the whitest point, so click on that. And yeah, I didn't think it was going to do too much because, you know, as we pointed out, even when we were adjusting the graph, that didn't need too much of an adjustment. I'm going to then go over to my gray or my midtones. And what you're looking for when you adjust these midtones is kind of like the, well, just that, the midtone of the picture. You're not looking for like an actually, it doesn't have to be gray, but what you see to be kind of like in between the darkest and the lightest point. So I would say that that'd be probably somewhere in here. You can kind of click around and feel. So see, that brought back that kind of more natural tone. And then when we do a preview, we can see again how much it's changed. And if you want to add like a little bit more contrast, like I said, if you tend to be someone who likes your images to be a little bit heavier or darker in the shadows, you can always work with both. You can work with the eyedropper tool, and then if you, again, want to do a little bit more adjusting in the graph, you are free to do that. And to save any of your changes, you can just simply click OK. Another way to preview a layer, so once you OK your levels adjustment, a way that you can preview the changes that you've made in each layer, you can essentially turn the visibility on and off by clicking this. There's a little eye icon located next to each layer, and you can simply click that on. Now it's turned on, and click it off to see the image without that adjustment. So yeah, that is a very quick demo on how to do a levels adjustment, which again is a very basic exposure adjustment in Photoshop. Most of the time, all and every image is going to need some sort of exposure adjustment after being taken in camera. So then all I'm going to do simply is save my image by simply going to save as, and we'll just drop this onto my desktop and save it as ocean levels adjustment. And I am going to save this as a Photoshop document. I recommend saving all of your images at least as a Photoshop document, and then you can save it additionally as a JPEG, or a TIFF is a little bit of a larger file if you're saving for the web or something. But when you save it as a Photoshop document, that allows you to reopen with all of these levels again, so that if something that you've done you want to go back and undo, you have the capability of doing that. But yeah, that is a basic levels adjustment in Photoshop. And you are to do that simple adjustment on all of your screen or all of your images that are due next week, and all of your images moving forward with this semester.